Hello. Now we're going to talk about the axial skeleton, and here's my buddy, the articulated skeleton. We will just call him Art. Is that okay if we call you Art? That's because you're articulated. Remember what that means. The articulated skeleton is the skeleton with the bones in the place and touching each other. They're articulated with each other. So this is Art, my buddy Art. And today we're going to talk about the axial skeleton. And the axial skeleton involves the skull. This guy's missing part of the skull. He's missing his mandible right up here. But when we look at the skull in detail, we'll look at one with a mandible. Now, what the axial skeleton is, it's the skull and the vertebral column. Let me turn him around this way a little bit. So you can see. Here's his vertebrae. Okay. And we'll be looking at each one of those different kinds of vertebrae because they're in a different region. Okay. And then they come down to a big bone down here that we saw in the appendicular skeleton. It's part of the axial skeleton, but remember this is the sacrum down here, and the sacrum articulates with this big bone, either if you want to call it the coxa, or it can also be called the ilium. Remember, there's three components of the coxa: the ilium, the ischium, and the pubis. That's covered in the video on the appendicular skeleton. So we see that these vertebrae and the skull make up the axial skeleton. One more thing, if you look back here, there's a hair there for some reason. Strange things happen. Okay, you don't grow hair on your ribs, you grow it up here, and some people can't even grow it up here. Okay, so what we're going to do then is look at this, but there's one more thing. On the axial skeleton, when we move him around this way, we'll see that the ribs, and we'll look at this close in a minute. I'll bring the skeleton even closer. These are the ribs, and they come out of the vertebrae. They articulate, they touch with the vertebrae. Okay. So now, this is the skull. And we'll look at this in closer detail too. But the skull, there's another hair up there. Wow, he's got hair where he's supposed to too. Okay, strange things happen. Okay, that hair came down here. Maybe somebody's been loving. Have you been messing around with a brunette, Art? Talk to me. Don't turn around from me. Okay, so the vertebrae articulate. There's a special combination of vertebrae up here, the atlas and the axis, that articulate with the skull. Then we'll look at that in detail. So the axial skeleton, quite simply, is what? The skull and the vertebrae coming all the way down to the sacrum, okay? And then also involves the ribs. And that's what the axial skeleton is, and we'll be looking at it in some more detail in a couple more videos.